Welcome to Blockbuster Bums. Kick back your recliner, crack open a beer, and let's talk movies. And today we're going to talk about You Only Live Twice, our fifth installment of the Bond series. We're moving on through the Bond series. I'm happy to talk about You Only Live Twice. Solid movie, I thought. So let's get this kicked off. Um, Barry, what did you think in your first time watching You Only Live Twice?
I think
Yeah.
it was a fine movie.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to rank as one of my favorites to this point, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was really fun in some spots, and at other times I found myself not quite as engaged. But overall, it was a good movie.
Fair enough. And I screwed up. So, Justin, why don't you give us our synopsis before we continue our conversation?
Yeah. All right. So this one it has James Bond in Japan. With James Bond working with the Japanese Secret Service, trying to stop a series of space hijackings, um, because someone is trying to provoke a war between cliffhanger here, Russia and the United States. That's yeah, it is a tale as old as time.
Over the years, I wonder how many movies have tried to start a war between Russia and America. I bet it's a ton.
We've gone to war with Russia many times
On screen.
on screen.
On screen,
Yeah, on
yes.
screen.
Um, all right. Well, thank you, Justin. I apologize for not coming to you first. Um, so, Tom, what was your thoughts in the rewatch of You Only Live Twice?
I had a lot of fun with this movie. Not only just because some of the ridiculousness of the space scene in the beginning and all that, but we get to travel around. It seems a lot more to different little destinations. I like the camera shots a lot in those locations. It did seem to get a little ridiculous in certain parts where Bond is a Japanese undercover and all that.
Yes.
But like I said, you overlook that and whatnot, and like the little things along there for just time period and all. But I really enjoyed this movie and especially all the references in it. Like there were so many times where I'd look there like, oh, that's where they got XYZ for Austin Powers or something like that. Where
Mhm.
just the whole island sequence and all, like it
Mhm.
was a fun time.
Yeah. Justin, your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. Of course, by this time, mm, I still have it. It's not as one of my favorites. It's kind of middle of the road for me as far as the Bond movies go. It was still fun to watch. I mean, it's still Connery, so I'm I'm Connery all the way. Yeah.
Fair enough. Ray?
I enjoyed it actually too. Super solid until a certain part about hour and 45 minutes in, which we will discuss later. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was super solid, and we'll just stay there until we get to the part I fucking hated the most.
Well, I agree. I do think this is a very solid movie. I thought they did a pretty good job with some of the stuff, and I do think, like Tom said, some of the stuff got a little ridiculous, but you can handle that in a Bond movie sometimes. It was entertaining, and I thought they changed things up. We're not in Europe. We're not in America. We went to Japan, which I thought was a cool little twist. See Bond in Japan. Um, the only thing I will say that I did notice is kind of they kind of screwed up their continuity was, unless Bond was just lying. I guess he could have been lying, but when he's talking to, what's the guy's name, Tanaka?
hmm
Yeah, Tanaka. He says, "Have you ever been to Japan, Mr. Bond?" He says, "No, never been." But in, I think it's Doctor No, he references him going on a mission in Tokyo.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, he's been there. Whether he was just lying because he didn't want to talk, he couldn't tell Tanaka like how I actually did a mission here, um, or what. But I didn't know if that was a continuity mistake or Bond obviously can't talk about his missions. I don't know.
I'd say it's a continuity mistake.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they do that in these movies quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. So, what is this? Is this the third or fourth movie that Bond dies the very beginning, or like we think he dies the very beginning?
Yeah, it's they definitely have that in Thunderball with the coffin, right?
Yeah,
And then
And then,
and
what
then
was
in
the Russian.
in Russia they strangle a guy that has a mask
that's
on.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of becoming a bit of a Bond trope, I
Yeah,
guess, which I'm kind of fine with. I mean, that obviously James Bond isn't going to die in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
right.
Um, I don't mind it if it plays a legitimate role in the storytelling.
And this one at least served a purpose, I guess. They were like MI6 was actually like faking his death to try and send him on a new mission. Like because apparently, the whole world knowing who your number one agent is isn't good.
Yeah,
But
Spectre, they know him by name.
yes.
They're trained to kill him
Yeah,
specifically. So yeah, they got to do something.
indeed, indeed. So that was an interesting way for them to try and get Bond to be a secret agent again instead of just an agent, I guess. Um, so I know I kind of skipped over it. What do you think in 1967? Do you think that opening space scene was just like really impressive?
Yeah, I actually wrote that down. To us, it may look silly.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine at the time that it looked pretty cool. You know,
'Cause this was what 67. That's 10 years before Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true.
and I mean,
That's
it didn't
true.
bother me. Even in 2023. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief, and I'm sure in '67 probably looked pretty cool. And it was very much the space age at that time. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely played up that part in culture.
Yeah.
I liked it because it was more of a because you see the exact same thing happen later on, like what we were talking about. But you don't like they don't translate it, so it's like you hear the same thing happen in Russian. So I think it was almost like a foreshadowing to where like you need this opening sequence to be heard in English. So later on, now we don't need the subtitles in Russian,
That's true.
like to where it's like, hey, I don't have to like. I can pretty much tune it out because even though I don't speak your language and all, I know exactly what you're saying because of the opening sequence we saw earlier. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Tom. So we move into the, I guess, funeral where they're doing Bond's funeral and they're advertising it in the newspaper.
Mhm.
And another like maybe continuity thing that maybe I wouldn't say bothered me, but struck me weird is at his funeral. There's a guy like watching them, like using binoculars and like watching them and everything like that. But we never find out why.
yeah.
He's just there and watching them clearly. Like maybe he works for Spectre, maybe he works for America, maybe he works for Germany. You never know, But he's watching them, but he never shows back up. They don't mention him again. It's not like later on. Blofeld's like, "Hey, I had my man watching your funeral. It was clearly fake or something." Like that. He just never comes back up.
And you would think, why would you have someone go watch a funeral like Bond? If Bond's faking it, he's not gonna show up at his funeral.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
just gonna like hop out the coffin. Hey, hey, I'm joking. So that's a weird mission to send someone on.
yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, it was. I wish they would have paid it off somehow. I
Yeah.
guess we just have to assume it's Spectre, just making
That's what I
sure
just
that
kind of talked about.
they're burying this guy. And I don't know. This is just something that only occurred to me now. Is that common if you're a naval officer or something and you die on land? Do they take you out to sea and dump you in the water?
No,
No.
I think that's just it. You
Definitely
die at
not.
sea.
Right.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how that works.
I mean,
I'm sure there's certain
Unless that's like
parameters
your-
for a sea
yeah.
burial.
But I like the scene. I particularly like, when they unzip Connery and of course, he
Permission to come
requested
aboard.
permission. to
Yeah.
come
I was
aboard.
gonna say it's
Yeah.
That was cool.
No, I really think that's the best sequence of the whole movie. Personally,
Mhm.
is them you slowly watch his body like float to the bottom, and then these scuba guys come out of nowhere, grab him, take him into a submarine, cut him open. He has the breath pack. and then he's like, the permission to come aboard thing's hilarious. I think.
Yeah, because what's his rank? Is the guy? Was he like an admiral or whatever he is?
Who's that?
And when he got on when whoever he asked for permission to
Oh
go on
yeah, I'm
board,
not.
Oh,
he didn't
yeah.
seem very he seemed like why he didn't seem very happy about the whole thing.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He's probably had his submarine taken over. I guess if they
Yeah.
consider it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're probably
Secret
right.
Service,
Like now
What-
you're being a
Well,
smart
yeah,
ass.
because
Like,
I
just-
mean,
like, what,
M
two-
has a whole office renovated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we just talked about them going to space, but we're also back underwater again. Like,
briefly.
yeah, I mean, just there's this one time essentially. I mean, the submarine comes up at the end, but we don't actually go underwater. But I mean, we're in space and underwater in the same movie. I would say that's probably pretty rare in the '60s.
Yeah.
If maybe the only time.
especially for their budget. So like
Their budget for this movie was $10 million.
10 million, and yeah,
So $1 million more than Thunderball.
and they went to space and underwater. That's
By the way, I will say this. They were supposed to make Your Majesty's Secret Service #5. And they had made all the plans to make the movie with Connery, by the way. And apparently they had unusually warm weather and all the snow melted where they were supposed to shoot all the snow scenes from Your Majesty's Secret Service. So just on the fly, they changed it up and made this movie instead.
Adapt and overcome.
Hell
So
yeah.
we could have seen, Connery make Your Majesty's Secret Service and potentially Lazenby make You Only Live Twice.
No, that would have been interesting.
Yeah. But back to the movie, I just thought that was an interesting tidbit. Sorry. I thought the submarine thing was cool, but at the same time, it served no purpose.
yeah.
It wasn't like they could have just pulled him out of the water and he could have met with him in a office somewhere, but no, he had to meet with him in a submarine. I think it was just like, this is how cool MI6 is,
Right.
type thing.
Flexing their muscle there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a fair share of that, of this is just cool, so we're going to do it just because it's cool. And, I'm largely okay with that.
But
Like a fan service thing. Like, I think fans want to see something like this.
Yeah. Now, it can, at times, though, I don't want to be overly negative, a little editing is okay, too, in any movie,
mhm.
A story told more briefly usually is going to be better, but that's my thought on that.
So what did everybody think of him being shot back out of a torpedo tube with no oxygen?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of sketchy and dangerous.
Extremely sketchy.
Because he had to sit in the torpedo tube and wait for it to fill up with water, so he's holding his breath.
Yeah.
Then they had to shoot him out, and then he had to swim to the surface. That seems pretty sketch.
And how much pressure are they shooting through that tube?
Yeah, that's true too, right? I didn't
There's a
think
lot of
about-
logistical questions here.
Yeah.
Just-
But then, by the way, he's buried off. Where is he? Are they already in Japan when he's supposed to be buried?
Well, he was in Hong Kong.
Yes.
They stated, when the U.S., UK, and Russia got together and there's the bickering about, hey, you guys did this, the USSR, that you destroyed our spaceship or whatever,
Our space shuttle.
The UK's like, nah, we don't think that makes sense because, it came from the Sea of Japan and blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, someone in the UK leadership says, well, we have a man on the job already in Hong Kong. I'm pretty sure they said Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think you might be right,
Yeah,
actually.
see, I already thought they were like in the sea or that strait in between China and Japan already.
Yeah, I was just
I-
wondering
I
because they
just
shoot
assumed
him out the
that's where they
torpedo
were.
tube and he swims up and he's on the coast of Japan.
Yeah.
So I was like, was he already
Yeah,
there?
I mean, there may have been some transference of the body, things of this nature. Who
Yeah,
knows?
that's true too.
It's weird. You would think if someone that was British Secret Service, they would have done it in the UK,
Yeah,
not in foreign water.
that's also a fair point. I don't really know how that works. Again, um, I should have maybe if I'd have known this beforehand, I would have asked my grandpa. He was the naval officer, so I get to ask him these questions. But
Yeah, there was such a British presence too, though, still at the time in Hong Kong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I guess
Like
it
I
wouldn't
didn't
have
even
mattered.
think
It's like,
about that. Yeah, the time period where like yeah they were independent and all, but it's like man, what are we? You're still talking about like a heavily Western influence there.
yeah, between there and what India as well. They were
Yeah,
still
I was gonna say there's still a hangover from all that nonsense. So I mean, yeah, you're it's not like, yeah, of course they like I'd imagine if I was like MI6, I'd have offices there and whatnot. I mean,
Mhm.
shoot, why not? Like,
so is this another time where Bond essentially just has nothing to do with skill. He just gets lucky. Like he shows up in Japan. He does the whole "I love you" thing with what is her name?
Ling.
Ling,
Ling.
and which by the
Is
way,
her name Ling?
Ling, like Ling.
Oh, I thought her name was Aki. Are we talking about?
That's a different.
That's probably the second one name.
Okay, so there's a.
There's Ling is, I think he just works with her, and then you have Aki and Kissy, which he has
Okay,
some sort of relations with.
all right. I need to recollect Ling then. Sorry.
we're gonna make sure we're right on this.
No, no, no you guys probably are.
Okay, so yeah, Aki is the one.
That gets the spider venom.
Yeah, she's got the sweet little sports car.
Yes,
Aki?
yes, but she
A
is,
couple times.
but she's the chick. She's there from the beginning. She's the chick in the sumo
Yeah.
wrestling match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which that like I
Yeah,
just
'cause
love the
Aki
code
was-
for that all.
She was the one that, for an odd reason, he seemed to really care about.
Yes, he did. By the way, I found this out too. It's just another interesting fact. They wanted them to meet at a sumo match, so they went to sumo wrestlers and asked them to just essentially act and do their sumo wrestling thing so that they could film the scene. And all the sumo wrestlers were like, "Oh, that's dishonorable. Like we will not do that." And so they had to film this scene at a real sumo event.
I
Like
like it.
the fight or the match, whatever they call it, that they show was a real match that actually took place in Japan.
Good.
Hell
I
yeah.
like
cool.
that.
Better for the film.
Yeah.
So anyway, he meets Aki so that he can meet, was it Henderson?
Yeah.
Henderson, who is his
The
who is
best
his
character
contact?
in the movie besides Bond.
Who is
Yeah,
his
I get his
contact?
character.
But then Henderson is immediately killed because his walls are made of paper.
Yeah.
And
Oh, it
now
is made of
now
paper.
Bond has no information and no contact, but Aki sets him up into a trap, and he essentially falls to the floor, and the Japanese secret service or whatever they want to call it are like, "Hey, we're gonna help you."
Yeah. They had to hurry up and kill Henderson fast because he's future Blofeld.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought Henderson was awesome. I thought that was a great character, and I was bummed out that he was offed so quickly. The way he was killed was awesome. He just stopped speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, at first you're like, "What in the world?"
Oh no!
And then-
Immediately I knew
Having
and
a
all that
stroke,
what had
buddy?
happened. That was the thing. It was
Oh,
like,
you're
oh,
dead.
he's dead.
Yeah.
Like there was no response time. Like,
Yeah, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, paper wall." But
Yeah.
of course, Bond catches the assassin. Of course, a relatively small Japanese man with white loafers. And Bond, after he kills this guy, smartly decides that he would dress up and disguise himself as him. And he's lucky that the man had I guess like a smog mask on, a pollution
Yeah.
mask
Yeah.
on. So Bond portrays this man, even switching his shoes out, and gets taken to I think Osato's company. But I think it's very funny that the driver, a pretty large Japanese guy, can't realize that, hey, I'm not carrying a 5'10" Japanese guy. I now have a 6'4" Scottish guy that I'm
he was
lugging
crouched when he
around.
went to the car. He was crouched.
Yeah, but then he
wasn't running.
carries him. He
He
carries
carries
him to
them.
the
Yeah, he
building.
does.
And
He
it's
carries them like a
fine.
baby.
It's just very
Like-
funny to me.
Well, in the dude's defense, he is kind of jacked. So I mean, he probably didn't even know what the weight
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how we get introduced to Tanaka. Is that Bond falls through the floor of a parking garage, like the entire floor. It's not just like a little section.
Oh,
It's like the
yeah.
entire
Oh, yeah.
thing goes, and he ends up with Tanaka, who is like. So am I wrong? Is Tanaka the equivalent of M?
That's the way I took it.
That's
Yeah,
how I
I would
take it.
guess. Yeah.
Because he even talked as he was on the same like playing field as M. To like, oh, your boss doesn't have like this kind of system in his country. Like,
He uses cold
Yeah.
tiger. He's
To where-
tiger. He's not Tanaka.
yeah,
Can't use
like-
it.
Yeah,
But
Tiger.
yeah, no, I just the way it was like, all right, like so this is the Japanese equivalent. Like
Yeah.
that's the way I took it.
And pretty much Tiger or Tanaka, whatever you want to call him, is he supplies Bond with everything for the rest of the movie, other than a helicopter. I mean, like he supplies them with men, he supplies them with information, he supplies them with pictures, he supplies them with women, he supplies them, like everything.
The
Like
amigos.
He didn't only supply him with men. He supplied him with ninjas.
he did, yeah, ninjas and suction cups.
Yes.
Yeah. Lots of suction cups.
Tanaka was a good character.
Yeah,
You know, I liked Tanaka. I liked the scene where Connery asks for the password, and of course it's "I love you," and Tanaka says that too.
yeah,
I just thought that was hilarious. Like what a risk there. You're just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
foreign country and some stranger sits next to you, but like, well, I hope this is it. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'll lose something in translation here. Like,
That was really good. I like that Bond kind of made an offhanded comment. I think to like help M save face when Tanaka, and you mentioned it, said something about like, well, doesn't your M have one of these, private subway things? And Connery's Bond is like, yeah, of course,
hmm
I'm sure that M doesn't.
By the way, I feel like they made a point of going out of their way to show us how much more efficient the Japanese MI6 or whatever they're called is than the UK's or even the US that we've seen so far. Because like it's like my agent's in trouble and like they just send a magnet to pick up the car and throw it in the ocean. And just like throughout the whole movie, they're just so much more efficient at taking care of problems.
Yeah.
That chopper got there quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
And
was a cool scene.
Yeah, and like, we have whole movies of, hey, there's a problem in our country, and we're going to send our best agent, James Bond, and take care of it. And 2 hours later, he's still trying to take care of the problem. You know what I mean? Like, so, it was just like, well, the Japanese, they got it on lock. They know exactly what to do with these problems.
yeah.
So, yeah, but you're right, Justin. You brought it up earlier. Bond seems to have something going on there with Aki.
Mhm.
Like it's very I don't know, like he's getting massaged and bathed and everything by these other pretty Japanese women, and then like he's so happy when she shows up.
Yeah.
Like the other women leave and she comes in and he's like, "Oh my god, it's you." And you're like, "Why is he so happy?" Like he had two other beautiful women there, and that's what, like
It's weird because there was no build up to why he would feel that way or why he
Yeah.
would react that way. It was just like she came in, she just kind of swooped in, and this dude's like, wow, it's almost like he's in love with her.
Yeah, it was a little odd.
but it did not stop him from sleeping with other women.
No, it's Bond. It's not ever
Yeah.
gonna stop.
Right, but what I'm saying is like you almost feel like, oh, he's in love with this woman, like, oh, is it like, and she presents it like we're in a relationship,
Oh yeah, no, she is.
because when Tiger's like, oh, you were hooking up with that woman, and she answers for Bond and is like, he would never do that, and Bond gets that look on his face like, oh, okay,
Oh, you don't know me. King and country.
yeah, king and country, that's right.
It felt a little rushed. I think that's what I would call it. I understand that James Bond has to have something of a romantic interest. And I say that only because he doesn't actually really ever care about the woman that much, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of came out of nowhere. I knew that she was going to be that to some degree, but kind of when she just showed up when he's participating in Tanaka's, I guess, geisha stuff. I don't know. It was as if like, oh, we're deeply in love.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're rode in a car together.
Right.
It was a little odd, but
Well, the last time he saw her, she sent him through a trap door.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they acted like they had a deep, meaningful.
Right. So so anyway, then you have um Aki and him and Tiger essentially traveling around picking up information. He does the meeting with I can't you said it earlier, Barry. What is the name of that guy's company?
Osato?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either Osako or Osato. I don't remember.
Yeah, he meets with the leader of that company, which is the first time we meet what's her name? Helga? The redheaded lady?
Helga, yeah.
First time we see her, um, and she very clearly is trying to figure out Bond because, like, she opens that door where he hid the body. Of course, the body's gone, but she just turns around and stares at Bond after she opens that door. Like, what? Did you expect to see a body here, sir? So, like, they're clearly on to him, but at the same time, they're all playing cool in the meeting.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody's always on to
Yeah,
Bond.
they already knew who he was.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like it was all just smoke and mirrors and everything at that point. Like because like I said, they opened fire on him outright in broad daylight when he left the building.
That's true. That's true.
Like, so it's like yeah, it's like I mean they had like the that was cool how like the X-ray machine and everything. They were even scanning him in front of him and everything. But like I said, they knew who he was from the start. Like I don't know. Like it's like I said, it's like he's not as he's kind of like bumbling around at this point still.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not like you may be trying to sneak, but everybody knows you're on this island. Like
Right.
Yeah, if you go near anything that Spectre has their hands on, they know your face.
well, and especially at this
So,
time.
yeah.
Like I said, like because later on they even allude to that. Like we know you tried to fake your death several times and everything like that, or like we just don't believe it type deal. And like yeah, it's just
I
one of those
imagine
things.
Spectre
It's old
didn't
hat.
believe that from the beginning. They're like, he's faking his death again.
Well, Helga believes it, or number 11
Mm-hmm.
believes it. Blofeld does not. Because
Yeah.
Blofeld, when she says it, she's like, he calls her stupid or something, and is like, how did you believe that? He was never dead, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But she was all like, Bond's dead. He can't be Bond. He's like, you idiot. Like, so I guess the next thing is this is the first time that we see Bond call Q into the field.
Yeah, asking
Yeah.
for Little Nellie's father.
Yeah. Hot, grumpy, and whiny Q.
Yes, yes. So Q shows up with a bunch of, I don't know, men to carry suitcases. Large suitcases, and then they open the suitcases and build a helicopter out of the pieces. A badass helicopter, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was real because it was on display in the museum, but there was an actual, I guess what they call those gyrocopters of those. Is that what they call
Yeah, I
it?
think
Stunt
so.
planes or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was a real thing.
So I have another little tidbit from this. So they took this very seriously, the helicopter dogfight, all that stuff. So, by the way, the takeoff scene where he takes off in the helicopter, they shot that scene 85 times.
Holy cow.
Tedious. Like,
Yeah.
that's just
No wonder Connery was pissed.
Yeah.
Then, so get this. They wanted this to be, as good as it could be. So I guess, I can't remember the guy's name, but there was this guy at the time that was like the guy to do planes and helicopters and like shoot them. Like he's the guy that like any big movie that had aerial scenes, he did the photography and the camera work. So he was in a helicopter suspended below it. Okay? Shooting. And there was, 4 or 5 helicopters in the air while they're doing this. So he can like shoot certain things while suspended from a cable from a helicopter. Okay? One of the other helicopters flew below him and cut off one of his legs
Oh my god.
Jeez.
during the shooting of this movie.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Well, there's
Yeah.
there's that extra million from the other one.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, good thing they made.
But
so
no,
Yeah.
The
they
guy live?
the guy not only lived, he came back and finished shooting the rest of the helicopter scenes.
Fuck yeah, that's what I'm talking
This
about.
guy had surgery
Hell yeah.
and then they stopped filming the helicopter stuff, went on and filmed more stuff for the movie, and then when he was ready, came back and finished filming the helicopter stuff.
Wow.
And then
that's a bad man.
this guy also, he comes back in, is it the next movie? Your Majesty's Secret Service, and shoots a helicopter scene for him. Yeah, I think it is, because the helicopter that takes him up to the mountain, into the mountains.
Oh, okay.
I think he shoots that scene for him, and then like the next year, he's shooting a helicopter scene for another movie, not a Bond movie, but a different movie, and falls out and dies.
Holy
Oh.
cow.
God damn it.
So he was just known to take risks to get his shot. That's
I
pretty much
guess.
it. Well, it makes sense because I remember talking to you about this movie and the scene where they're chasing Bond through the warehouse and all that, like
Yeah.
before he gets like karate chopped and knocked out, like
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
There's a really cool aerial shot that it was like quintessential old school movies to me, to where like they're on the rooftop and you see like the camera angle is above them,
Yeah, it
like a
goes,
sky
wide
view.
angles
Yeah,
and
and but you can tell like very that the camera is moving and everything. You're very aware that you're watching it through a lens. Like, and it was like, oh, this is definitely like an old 60s, 70s like car chase scene or something like that, to where like you see them running across the rooftop and all that, ready for the fight scene, then cut to the actual
And
combat.
just so many guys are pouring out
Oh,
to
yeah.
fight Bond in that scene.
he's just like
Yeah, and he
There's
just
guys
bah, bah,
everywhere.
bah, and it just gets taken down by like random karate
Yeah, like
chop.
he kills guys until his gun's empty, and then he knocks out probably 5 or 6 guys after that with like punches and kicks and stuff. He does some like half-ass karate moves while he's on the roof of that building.
But no, I just remember that scene. I remember telling Barry about it. It was like favorite shot in the whole movie was that aerial scene right there. Like just how it was shot, everything about it, the angle, and like you can just tell money was spent on it, because there are no wires there unless he's hanging off the damn chopper and all that. But there's no CGI or anything. This is just a man and a camera, and like it's very aware of what I'm seeing and all. Like,
Yeah, that was a very good scene. I like that a lot. And it, up to this point, most of the fight scenes in the James Bond movies have been very much close-ups,
Mhm.
and
yeah,
kind of edited in a way where they are a bit jumpy. Whereas obviously this is very much just
you can
a
tell they were sped up or slowed
continual-
down, and
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a nice change of pace.
So I agree with what you said, Tom. I'm not trying to
I don't know.
skip over it. But back to Q and the helicopter. First off, the helicopter is cool, but it had so many weapons. Like he takes out like they send 4 helicopters to kill him. Essentially, I don't know if this is the right word. Maybe you know better than me, Ray. It's essentially it's a helicopter dogfight.
Yeah.
Like, he takes out each helicopter with a different weapon.
Yeah.
Like he drops the mines on one of them.
Yeah.
And he uses rockets. He uses machine gun. He's just taking out helicopters one by one, and the whole time Aki's on the ground like freaking out. Oh my God, is he all right? Like, sorry, I did a voice. My bad. Should have done
That
that.
was good.
Yeah.
The only thing I had problem with that helicopter part was you had the 2 heat-seeking missiles. How in the hell does the heat-seeking missiles know when to split up and go to 2 different airplanes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Good
smart
point,
missiles.
Ray. Good point. Bond told him to, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
Highly
Go split up, bitches. Go get them.
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's a very good point. And all he learned through the whole dogfight and the whole helicopter ride around the island or around the country was that there's a volcano over there.
Yeah.
That's all he
Yeah.
learned.
So, I guess maybe it's and you may have mentioned it, but it may not be real obvious. So he's up there primarily to scout the area to see if he can locate anything peculiar where these ships are launching from to destroy, other nations' space spacecrafts,
Yes.
whatever. And like you said, he doesn't find anything.
Yeah. Um, and Ray was right earlier. He touched on it. Q is quite grumpy.
Yeah, like acting like a straight up bitch the whole time. It make no sense, dude.
Well, to be fair, Bond was an asshole in Thunderball to Q.
Well, that's yeah.
I mean, they do have a bit of a contentious relationship.
Yes.
Sometimes
Bond's always breaking his shit.
Yeah, sometimes
that's
too
true.
much so, like I'd like it to be a bit more jovial, but
I think at this point, the only thing he's actually taken care of was the car.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everything else is,
So this leads us into Tiger showing Bond, sorry, his secret ninja creating facility, where they have all different types of ninjas, like true ninjas with swords and throwing stars and so on, and then more modern ninjas with guns. And then they decide that Bond needs to train to be a ninja. But not only does he need to train to be a ninja, he needs to become Japanese and marry a Japanese woman.
Yes. It's a tale as old as time.
None of it needed to happen because they didn't even use any of that. They just,
My favorite part about that whole thing was when they're on the honeymoon and he pushes the oysters away when he knows he's not getting laid.
Yes, yeah.
Like that was the thing to me to where like, all right, that made the whole thing worth it right there. Like that joke, fine. He's like, well, I guess
I don't know what you, something to the. Oh, I don't know. She said something before he did that, right?
Yeah.
She
She
shot him
told him, like, I
down
don't know,
because
don't
he
even try
made
it.
an innuendo and everything as if like he's we got to play the part or whatever like that, and she just shot him down. He's like, well, I guess I won't be needing these, and just pushed him away. And I was like,
I went back and re-listened to
probably still eat
that.
the oysters, but I mean, like it's like,
I went back and re-listened to that conversation because I was confused because I was like, Bond's married. Like, how does this work? He's not. Because she says during that conversation, because he says this is supposed to be our honeymoon, aren't we supposed to be playing our part?
yeah.
And it's assuming we should sleep together, and she goes, yeah, but you gave the minister a fake name, remember? So essentially, she's saying we're not really married, so we're not sleeping together.
Yeah.
And so he's not really married. He gave a fake name.
Probably wasn't gonna really marry her anyway.
I know, but
it was just one of those things. It was still just her. Like it was like a clever way of saying no. That's all it was. Like.
And
Like, all right, you got
Kissy
me
at
on
this
take
point,
it.
right?
This is Kissy.
Because
Yes, sorry, I didn't
Aki
mean
died.
that. They introduced Kissy at this point for the woman he needs to marry, much to Aki's chagrin, because she wants to be the one to marry him. Even though Bond even acts like he wants it to be Aki.
Yes.
But no, I guess we skipped over some stuff. I apologize.
That's okay.
And like he tells them he's going to marry a woman that has a face like a pig. First off,
Yeah.
and Bond is, you could tell, quite upset about
Oh,
this.
he's irritated.
And but he continues to sleep with Aki this whole time while he's doing his training montages or whatever. But then I guess a ninja from a different place, a rival ninja, sneaks in and attempts to kill Bond, and but kills Aki instead with poison. And then Bond kills the ninja. Yep. And so anyway, back to then he got married and he's living with Kissy, which seems to be for like a total of a day?
Seems so.
The whole montage seems real sped up. Honestly, like it was one of those things that honestly the whole Japanese training sequence seemed like it was kind of forced in there just because of Japanese culture.
Yeah, I think
Like,
Tiger says at one point you have to train for the next 2 weeks. So I think he trained to be a ninja for 2 weeks.
Yeah, which is like really like you're gonna get all the ins and like the whole thing really just seemed forced. Like I'll be honest, like there could have been a different type of training montage, and I think it could have worked just as easily.
They should have
Like,
called Rocky. They have the
There you
training
go.
montage.
There you go.
yeah, I was gonna say like
I think this is one of those examples of them feeling like they need to get this in there. I think at that time, like the ninja culture was kind of becoming a big
Yeah.
thing, you know. So squeezing that in, of course, they're in Japan. I mean, it's fine, but a bit unnecessary. I agree.
Yeah.
Especially since then Tiger just shows up at their house and was like, "Hey, we found something," or something. I don't remember what he tells them. Something happened, and essentially Bond and Kissy just go get in a boat and take the boat over to Blofeld's hideout. And they
Yeah.
find it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
about
Like, they never
it's about
needed
the
the
cave
whole-
where it
this
has
whole-
that gas
Yeah.
to where people
Yeah.
were making it through. That's
Yeah,
what they
just-
told
Yeah.
them about, and
Yeah, just drop in there, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of just filler.
It
Because that
is.
whole like
It
he
is.
didn't need to pretend to be Japanese. He didn't need to get married.
well, because
he
it
didn't
had
need to train to be a ninja.
none of it had
He
any
used
bearing
none
on
of
the
it.
assault on the island. Because
Yeah.
when it came to them actually assaulting the island, it's very un-ninja like. You're just
Yeah.
raiding it with guns and everything, just
Yes.
storming the beach. Like,
Yeah, they all just ran. Down
yeah,
the volcano.
there was nothing that said ninja about it whatsoever. Like you're just outright trying to get cover and everything, and just like leapfrog up the mountain is all it was.
So he goes and breaks into the volcano after he finds out that it's not water, it's metal.
Which is awesome.
It is kind of cool.
That is cool.
But he sends Kissy to swim all the way back
Yeah, I thought that was
to
so
get
weird.
to get help. So she has to swim across. I don't know. I mean, you can't even see across it when they show it.
She's a very strong swimmer.
And on top of it, not only does she have to
Lung capacity
swim,
like crazy.
but then they send helicopters to kill her,
Yeah.
and she has to dodge machine gun fire while she's swimming across this.
She's
big thing.
Incredibly strong swimmer. That's
Yeah, she's a
They wanted to
badass,
show
apparently.
that she was.
I mean, if we had a swimming competition between all the Bond girls, Kissy would win.
Yeah, she would definitely win.
Yeah.
She can dodge machine gun fire from helicopters in the water. Yeah, it's pretty badass.
I'm not gonna lie, I would have died. I would have just died.
I would have drowned.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would have drowned. Not
I would-
the,
I would-
not the machine
Yeah,
guns. I
wouldn't
just
even-
mean
wouldn't even
I would have
bring the machine
drowned.
Guns, but like, you gotta swim this far. But like, dude, we're dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
Like, you shouldn't have brought me here. Like, I'm a land person. Like,
So Kissy is, just to clarify for me, she is just a girl. She's not.
I think she's one of Tiger's operatives.
She is an operative.
I
Okay.
believe so.
He said she works for me. He said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said
But
she
she
works.
was still just a local girl as well, right?
Yeah, she lived in a fishing village and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So she said her parents were dead. That's how she ended up with the house, is they left it to her when they died or something like that.
Okay.
So anyway, Bond breaks in as usual, gets captured. That's just Bond's thing. He gets captured and has to get out of being captured.
He's kind of shit.
He has to work under pressure. He can't plan things out and follow it through. No, he's got to create a level of danger. He's got to increase the level of danger for himself.
Yes.
He gets captured because he can't fake being an astronaut.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting choice by him.
Like,
Yeah.
shit,
You
Yeah.
know, there were astronauts available
Push this button over here.
because he had just rescued them.
Dude,
Right?
you're correct, but I assume he did that because he was going to sabotage from inside. Like, because they were going up there to capture another capsule or shuttle or whatever, and he was like, well, I'm just going to go up there and not let it
I
happen.
think he's making a lot of assumptions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's fine. I understand it's just a movie, but I'd send in the guy who knows something about it
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
be like,
like,
hey,
this
why
is
don't you
what to do."
sabotage this? But it's fine.
So he's captured, and dun-dun-dun, we see Blofeld for the first time. Like, all of him. Which is cool. I thought I like this actor as Blofeld personally. I think he's one of my favorites, if not my favorite Blofeld. So
Well,
I guess
Alex,
spoiler alert, they changed the actor multiple times.
Before you continue, he also played Loomis in the Halloween movies, and he was also
was
in.
him.
He was a president in Escape from New York. Kurt
Oh,
Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
good call.
Yeah, his name's Donald Pleasance, and
Great
I know that
movie.
he
Yeah.
had,
Yes.
a pretty good career. And I
Oh,
do
yeah, no
remember him
doubt.
for horror movies.
Yeah.
from Halloween.
By the way, the scar like thing on his eye, they made that with super glue.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very well done.
Nice.
Yeah, the reveal is well shot. I liked the way it was shot. It was kind of weird because he's like behind a guy's pants, kind of, and he kind
Yeah.
of ducks his head out. But it's a great reveal. Despite that, really cool to see the character.
Like even better look on somebody's face is the guy from the was it the Osaka Corporation or from earlier on when he realizes that Bond is alive and is like, oh shit, like it's like
I think he thinks he's gonna be killed.
Yeah, he's
yeah,
like,
like
"Oh,
you
Yeah.
feel automatically like like I'm
means
done
I
for.
failed."
Like it's just
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got that piranha tank, and poor Helga, she
Yeah, I
did
mean
it
he throws
already.
he throws Helga in the piranha
Well,
tank, yeah, for letting Bond
but I
live.
just the look on that actor's face to where like yeah that's the look of shock and terror like you think your boss is gonna kill you right now like just
By the way, I think we mentioned this off air, but I want to say this on air. A total waste of a henchman in this movie. I feel
Oh,
like
that guy.
I feel like Blofeld's henchman has a lot of potential in this movie, and essentially he just stands in the background and
Yeah.
like pulls levers and does stupid stuff, and then he has one fight scene with Bond, but he never speaks. He doesn't like
Yeah.
nothing. It's just there he is. But Kissy finally does make it to Tiger. Tiger and all the ninjas show up. It looks like hundreds of them. All show up. They blow up the fake water metal piece. They all come streaming down, and it's just like mayhem, battle royale type thing. Guys with swords, machine guns, pistols, grenades, all sorts of stuff all over the place, fighting, killing. All while Blofeld is very calmly pretty much taking Bond on a tour of the facility, and then decides at the end is like, now I will kill you. And then, is it Tiger saves him with the throwing star?
no there's the whole cigarette thing
Yeah.
first off
Oh,
like, that's
yeah.
because that's what irritated me there I was like that was the end where like that if Bond asked for anything I was like you're even purposely like not underestimating him up to this
Yeah.
point
I'm
like
like, you're Blofeld, really?
well like you even told your henchman earlier in the thing like you're a fool to think that he would be dead type deal or that it wasn't him
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that and here it's like the simplest request you're gonna give him his cigarettes from his pack
Right.
like
Yeah.
come on now like it's the 60s somebody else in this room smokes like
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
like it was like just one of those things where like it was hard for me to believe having bought into the whole premise of all the characters because where like if I believe that Blofeld is this like cunning and smart and mischievous and like him and Bond really are these big rivals like how would you underestimate them so much at that time
I agree with you, Tom, but I'll take it a step further. Throughout all these movies, when we didn't know who Blofeld was or what he looked like, and we just saw him petting his cat all the time, Blofeld was completely and totally fucking ruthless. He's killing dudes for making the simplest of mistakes.
Yeah.
He's killing all these people, and then he toys with Bond for 30 minutes of the movie. And then goes, well, I'm going to kill you now, holds out a pistol, and then his hand gets hit with a throwing star. He drops the gun and jumps on that little rail car thing and goes away, and Bond and them continue killing everybody. But it was like, I don't know. I felt like they mischaracterized Blofeld in this movie a little bit, or at least mischaracterized him from what they had portrayed him in the last few
It
movies.
seemed like a flaw.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like a flaw in the character development.
I agree.
Like, that's what it is. Like,
So anyway, obviously the facility's gonna blow up. They a bunch of ninjas and Tiger and Kissy and Bond swim out through the tunnel that nobody can live going through.
Yeah.
just because the gas. If you're under the water, you're fine.
Yeah, and they all get out. And then here's another problem I had is they drop a whole bunch of those life rafts, the inflatable life rafts, which is a Bond signature thing. But all the ninjas and everything are climbing into them. Well, Bond and Kissy climb into one by themselves, obviously, but then they pan out, and all of them are gone except for Bond and Kissy's, and they're just floating alone, no other life rafts, making out in a life raft, and then the submarine comes up underneath the life raft
Yeah.
and picks it up. So here's my question, guys: did Bond hook up with Kissy? Because if we're keeping track
Yeah.
of numbers here, he's already hooked up with 3 people in this movie.
Yeah.
So, but it obviously they're showing it. They're showing them making out. But then the submarine comes up and picks them up, and M says, "Moneypenny, go up top and bring him down."
Yeah.
So do you think he
Oh,
sleeps
yeah.
with Kissy?
No, I think Moneypenny breaks that shit up.
Because she says, "With pleasure,"
Yeah.
or "It would be my pleasure," or
Yeah,
whatever it
she,
says.
She definitely cock blocked that time.
Yeah.
She did it.
I guess not within the confines of the movie. I guess not. Yeah.
So we're gonna say it's 3, not 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
But I want to believe it. Like, it's one of those sort of like, yeah, I want to believe he did, but yeah, I bet she blocked him. Like,
Yeah. She did at that point, but
oh
you
yeah,
know,
because
Bond,
if we're going off the
at some point on that trip, he
if we're
got it.
using the end of the other movies as foreshadowing, like, if you're in a life raft with Bond, you're gonna give it up. Like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's it. But like, hey, it's just you, me, and the ocean. But like,
Yeah.
you know, that's what we're doing. Like,
All right. Well, is there anything else we want to talk about real briefly before we move on to our rankings and end this up, wrap this up?
the lack of side railings and guardrails on those stairs at the compound.
Oh man,
Just wide open
just some
stairs,
stone
just
stairs coming
yeah,
out of the
blocks.
wall.
Like all I could think about
they're
was
safe.
busting my shin going up or down those damn things. Like the whole time I was like, nope. Like there'd be one time where I'd have too much to drink and I would need a railing to go up or down, or like
Tom, the safety officer.
yeah. Like,
That was awesome.
that was
you
the
know.
first thing I thought of. Everybody running around machine guns, like, nope, someone's gonna slip and fall and all that shit. There's water everywhere, and there's not a rubber mat to be seen.
Well,
Like,
you gotta think
it's just,
about it. They're building that in I'm guessing, a dormant volcano.
Yeah.
yeah, I
That
would hope.
And
so.
launching
that
rockets
can
out
be
of it.
active at any point in time.
Yeah.
So that was already a big hazard.
I guess the only thing I want to mention is that I thought the set was great, and I know you're joking about the safety
Oh, yeah,
precautions that were
it's-
taken. It was really cool, and that the screenplay for the movie was written by Roald Dahl, who's the guy who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and like James and the Giant Peach.
Wow.
So that's kind of peculiar.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I wouldn't have connected those two or those three and all
Yeah.
that. Like,
All right. Well, I think that wraps up this portion of the episode, and we will move into our ranking systems, one of which I think we just took care of right there. So we're giving the body count at 3 for this movie.
yeah,
So we will be at 14 now. So, Ray, do you want to update our list of 14 on the body count?
I sure can.
Through 5 movies, we're at 14. All right. So now I guess we will rank our Bond girl. So, Kissy. I don't know about everybody else, but Kissy comes in at a solid number 5 for me.
Yep.
I don't know that Kissy is as attractive as any of the other Bond girls, even though she can swim like a demon.
that lung capacity, man. Like,
I think actually between them, I think Aki looked better than her.
Hell yeah. She should have been the
Yeah,
Bond girl.
that's- yeah,
Kissy was
so
the
it
most
was-
irrelevant Bond girl there was.
Yeah.
I liked Aki a lot better.
Yeah.
If it was Aki, I would have put her above Pussy
might have-
Galore.
If it was Aki, I would put Aki at 1.
No
Really?
way.
Yeah.
No way.
If that's how
way.
relevant.
I might have put her at 4.
wow, like Alex is getting ready to fight over here.
I might have put her at 4.
Yeah, throw a
or
laptop.
3.
She was there. She was there when he needed him and didn't expect it. She was the most useful. She played the biggest part in the role, or in the movie, and she was the most likable character. And I just don't know
Yeah,
how
they did-
how Kissy was the
they
Bond
didn't
girl
need
for 30
Kissy.
minutes.
He didn't even need her.
Yeah.
If they would have had Aki, I think it would have been better if he had Aki through the whole thing.
Yeah, I think they could have just continue to use Aki in the role she was already in, and she could continue to be the Bond girl. Why Kissy came in, I don't know. But once Kissy did come in, just a little bit of pushback here, Ray. She
Okay.
was useful. I mean, she did essentially save Bond by going back and getting. She swam across the fucking ocean to go get
I mean, yeah, but
the
I mean-
reinforcements and everything, and dodged machine gun fire and everything else, and then came back and helped fight. So
I
she
mean,
she
yeah,
did do
it's a
some
key.
useful stuff.
Yeah, but minimal.
I
Like
don't know how minimal
like
that is. man.
Aki was just when Bond was in trouble, she was there. When Bond was in trouble again, there she was with the car. Pull him off his like, oh, she's the villain or whatever. pop down that trap door, boom, she's double agent and she's helping Bond. Like she was there to move the story forward. She was just
Yeah.
I-
She was a very useful character. She was
Yeah.
part of the plot. I don't know that Kissy was necessarily a big plot. Part of the plot. I mean,
Either way, my favorite part through that whole exchange was Barry over here just nodding, just like quietly to Ray the whole time.
yeah.
And I'm just thinking to myself, man, Ray has real critique for all these girls, and I'm just judging them on looks. like Ray's like,
No,
oh,
Aki was a
there-
great character.
There's
I
character
agree.
development.
Look.
They're helpful and all. I'm like, well, she doesn't have as much of an hourglass as this girl, so she's out. Like it's like,
Look, it's always fun
my-
to have the beautiful
my
girl,
criteria
but
is
wouldn't you
way
want to
lower
have
than
one that can help
like-
your ass out?
Yeah,
yeah.
she had already been established. She was a good character.
Yeah.
She's obviously an attractive woman as well. She had all of these skills. I think you're right. It was unnecessary to
Yeah,
implement kissing.
that's what made me
But-
mad most part of the movie. They just killed her off and like, oh, here you go. Here's
I
another
agree. I agree with you that she was a good character. All those things, but doesn't it bring a little bit of like, what's the right word? Sorry. Doesn't it kind of show like the stakes at a certain point? Like somebody snuck into your bedroom and killed your girl.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like she didn't have to. That whole scene just kind of rattled me. Like they could have, like,
That shit hit you
Was-
hard,
was
Ray.
It looked
Yeah.
like,
Was
Like, I don't even know
was
what to
that the
say, like,
hour,
it
was
just-
that the hour and whatever marker that you were talking about?
Oh, is
oh yeah,
that-
your hour 45
what-
thing. What was that, Ray?
when she died.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
All right.
That was
All right.
the hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Ray is visually shaken.
Yeah. It really- because- I don't know. I think I just liked her most out of the other four of them.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much covered. We all agreed that Kissy was 5, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So we're all there. So now we move on to the movie. So I've thought a lot about this, going back and forth quite a bit. But I also think I'm gonna do "You Only Live Twice" at 5.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
It makes sense, yeah. Because I do like From Russia with Love better than You Only Live Twice, which we had at 4.
Tom, I haven't heard from you.
Yeah, I'll go with it because I don't know. Like the drawback to me to where like I want to like this movie better than From Russia with Love, but like I said, the Japanese montage sequence and all that kind of stuff it was a weird low point in the movie for me. To
Yeah.
where like it slowed down the pace. It seemed like we were building this momentum all of a sudden to stop, and now you're just gonna like arbitrarily train as a ninja for 2 weeks, and then we're gonna raid the island. Where it's like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Like, because like I said, there's no like it doesn't further the plot or the character development in any way. Like you get maybe 1 or 2 jokes, and then you get an assassination out of it. Like, but other than that, it was just like, yeah, it was just a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
I think that part was what killed it for me.
I will say this. The first time I watched You Only Live Twice, I was like, oh, this is better than From Russia. And then I watched it the second time, and I kind of poked holes in my own argument.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I was like,
the first time I remember hitting you up, like I was so happy, like so many like little nostalgic scenes from other movies and references, like I said, but man, it's just that little snippet in there that just kills the movie for me.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was a bad movie. And I'm not saying that it's, it's going to be at the end when we get there. It's not going to be at 26 or whatever. I just don't think it was as good as these other 4 at this point.
It could have done with some editing.
Yeah.
Trim that shit.
All right. Well, anybody else have anything to add on any of these issues before we wrap this up?
No.
Nope.
All right. Well, we appreciate you tuning in for this You Only Live Twice episode of Blockbuster Bums. We would appreciate you tuning in next week for our Your Majesty's Secret Service episode. That's a mouthful. That'll be an interesting one. We change up Bonds to George Lazenby instead of Sean Connery. So we would appreciate you tuning in. And thanks for tuning in to Blockbuster Bums.